Hi everybody, this is Craig Tanner for The Mindful Eye and The Daily Critique. Today's image was created by David, who's an intermediate photographer from the UK. David shot this with a Canon 30D, an effective focal length of about 50 millimeters. Exposure trio is ISO 100, f6.3, and 1/320th of a second. Really like David's backstory here because he's clearly stated what he's trying to say in the story of his image and the mood that he's trying to evoke, and that has something to do with the alternative version of the image that I created in the video today. David says that he's taken this image on a cloudy day in Suffulk, says there's still a thriving fishing community there, says there are a lot of dilapidated boats and various sheds on the beach, said he really wanted to capture the feeling of the rundown dilapidated boats and sort of this gloomy feeling juxtaposed with the flash of hope and the rainbow in the background. A lot of things that I like about the image. One of the really interesting things to me about this image, if we want to talk about design and one of the most important things in photography, where we place our camera, it's just the way David has managed the boat against the space shape of the sky and the water and the beach. I think there's a really beautiful job here of letting this end of the boat finish relative to the right hand side of the frame, breaking the line of the horizon with the middle of the boat, and having it in a camera position where the front part of the boat comes down and separates in the negative space of the water. The horizon on shots when we're shooting at the ocean can be a very static, hard sort of obstacle that the viewer has to get over. It can divide the image in a way that reminds us that we're just looking at a two-dimensional artifact. And I really like the way David has done two things at one time. He's created negative space for the front and the boat to separate as an implication of a three-dimensional idea, but he's also broken the line of the horizon with this arcing movement of the boat, and I think that helps to give a lot more movement and feeling of movement in this image on the z-axis of being able to move through the image. I'm also enjoying these subjects that push in from the right. We want to move from left to right naturally, and having images that push back from the right as visual stops can help to contain the eye. I'm really enjoying the feeling of leading line, the way the boat and the flags are pushing towards this really important idea in the image, the rainbow. I also enjoy the cross-hatching energies of the implied energy of wanting to read from left to right, but the boat and the movement of the flags with the wind pushing back against that. It's a fantastic moment. Obviously the rainbow is connected to moment in very specific light, but the wind here is really helping too. It's creating a really beautiful gesture in the flags, and again an energy that really flows with the story that David is trying to tell. You can probably already see from looking at the layers that I created a black and white version of this image, and you might think that that would be a little bit counterintuitive in an image where a rainbow is so important. We think about the colors of the rainbow, but I want to make the case for why I've made the changes that I've made, and then I'll turn the layers on. One of the things that happens for me when I look at this image, as much as I enjoy the stories, that David says that he's really trying to play the idea of gloom and sort of dilapidation off of the idea of the rainbow. And the orange flag here and the life ring both are incredibly high energy from a color standpoint. They're also on a dynamic diagonal in terms of being implied to sort of move together here. And the thing about orange is it's not only a very high impact color from a frequency standpoint. The warm colors have a lot more power than the cool colors, but orange in this context is a color that starts to suggest archetypes that are very high energy. The life ring, of course, has its suggestion of saving someone. This has a suggestion on a beach in a lot of places of a gale warning or high winds or a riptide. And to me, that's a third kind of energy that's different than what David is trying to evoke with the rainbow, and then the sort of feeling of gloom and run down. And in black and white, obviously we can get rid of the orange, but the other thing that we can do is we can actually bring out a lot more contrast in the rainbow. We can actually make it more of an exciting subject, and we can rhyme it off of the ribbing here on the boat in a way that can help to tie these two ideas together. I'm not going to be able to do that so much in color. The tough thing about color is, yes, I can come in and I can change colors, and I can also change contrast and luminosity, but even if we go into luminosity mode working on color, so much of the time color is not mutually exclusive from contrast and luminosity changes. A lot of times it's dependent on them, and it can be more difficult to push value changes in a color file than in a black and white file. So what I want to do now is just go through the changes. One of the things that I did was I got rid of the border here. Borders are a personal thing. I tend to be a big-time traditionalist in terms of presentation, and I tend to not use border effects. And when I'm presenting prints, very classical gallery framing with white mats and the mat weighted more at the bottom, so on and so forth. So that is personal to a certain extent. I really do like the idea of a vignetting mask to contain the eye, and I'm going to apply that. But I'm going to go ahead and remove the border simply so the changes that I'm making, particularly the vignetting mask, can stand a little bit more on their own. And the fact of the matter is, in my workflow, if I have any cloning or healing or content changes to the image, this is when I would want to do it. And I've done it in a pretty quick, rough way, just using the clone tool. Lots of other ways to do this in Photoshop. Remove the border. I then came in and just simply first used the red channel, black and white. And I really like the feeling that I got from looking at this in black and white. I feel like that orange color is not pulling on me as much anymore. I feel like I'm slowing down now in the way that I'm looking at the image, and I don't keep getting pulled back very, very quickly to the life ring and the orange flag. So I got to here, I came in, and you can't see all the work that I did, but I used a black and white adjustment layer and merged it with another layer to take the white flag and push it more back towards a medium or gray so that it doesn't have quite as much weight. And then I came in and I applied some changes to the image to push more towards a vignetted feeling in the middle of the image, having the most light, so that when we look at the image, we sort of move in this middle part, but then the eye is contained by a dark around the edge. Here is where we started, and here is where we've ended up. And like I said in the beginning of the video, I really just see this as a variation on the theme, because I love where David started. It'd be really interesting to hear from other people about color versus black and white and the changes that I made to the image. I really like the color version a lot. I think it has a different feeling. And one of the really potentially powerful takeaways from the video today is that as an editor of David's image, I really made choices about editing based on what he was saying that he wanted to evoke with the image and the story that he was trying to tell. Whether I hit the mark or not is beside the point. One of the things I really want to say in the video today, and I encourage you to continue to think about, is what is the message of your image, and let that be your guiding light, particularly when you're working conceptually. Let it be your guiding light in terms of camera placement and how you shoot the subject, and then how you're editing in Photoshop is so much easier to get to where you're going when you know what the next step is, because you're real clear on what it is that you're trying to say. Love the story that David has told here. Really appreciate David sharing the image with us. Really appreciate you being here. Hope to see you again real soon on another episode of the Daily Critique.